Hey everybody, I am Danny Otto. Welcome into another episode of That Recap Show. Now, wait a minute. I was going to issue a spoiler warning, but we have somebody calling in. This is very strange. This doesn't happen very often. Actually, we have multiple people calling in, and this is very strange. It's definitely not my co-host. Hello? Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here.
That's
Hello?
right.
No
Hey,
way! I
hello,
get to be
man.
Iron
Yes.
Man in that one? Awesome!
Hi.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Spoiler
actually,
alert.
you know what? This kind of
alert.
works out perfectly. So
Yeah.
we're going to be issuing a multiverse level spoiler warnings. We will be talking about Loki episode 4. So if you haven't checked out that video yet, you may want to pause this, go check out that episode, and then come back here and enjoy the breakdown, I guess, with all of us. With that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
For the first time on That Recap Show, it's my very own cousin, Dylan.
Hey, Danny.
Hey. So we have so much to get through in this episode. This we were already talking about this before we started the taping for this. It's a very short window of time, I guess, in the actual episode itself, but so much happened. We're gonna try to do a quick summary. So even before we get the Loki opener, we had two biggish reveals. And the first one, which is an origin of Sylvie, we see her as a young girl at Asgard. And we see Ravonna actually being one of the Minutemen. We see her getting captured, getting taken to the TVA, everything that our Loki variant went through as an adult, which to our, like, when we got to see it in the first episode with our Loki variant, it was funny because it was happening to an adult, and this like, sign everything that you've ever said, and are you a human or a robot type of thing. All of those things were funny happening to like our variant Loki, but happening to a small girl, it really has a different tone. It's very like scary. Like imagine like a small child having to deal with all of that and not knowing why they did anything wrong. Like she didn't do anything wrong, at least not that we've seen so far. So we get that first. Then we also get Ravonna, the judge, going up the elevator that Sylvie and Loki were trying to get into, that to go to the Timekeepers, and we see the silhouettes of the Timekeepers. So now we know there is at least some sort of physical form of the Timekeepers, and then it takes off right from where we left off the last episode. They are on Lamentus 1, minutes away from dying, and we get this very nice scene between Loki and Sylvie where they're scared. Like, this is it. There's no way they can get off of this. This is going to happen. And they're kind of accepting it. But boom, jump cut to the TVA, and we see this giant timeline branch form. And not just like this little steady one. We get a jumper, like going straight up. And I guess they're assuming that has to be them. So they run and jump minutes, seconds before they're about to be taken out, and they get captured. And we have this scene where they're walking down the hallway, and this is like, there's a lot of favorite parts that I have from this episode, but my first big line from Loki that I thought was hilarious was they get separated, and Sylvie had like 4 guards like just struggling to keep her, and Loki has 2, and Mobius just like trotting next to her, and they separate, and Loki goes, "This is ridiculous. I should at least have as many guards as she does. This is just insulting." It was a very funny Loki thing.
Now we go into the interrogating, and now Mobius is trying to get information out of Loki. He thinks that Loki's lying to him, but Mobius can't really get anything out. But Loki says something very important, which is that Mobius is being lied to and is thrown into this time jail cell, which is pretty hilarious in that it's basically he's he's thrown into this loop in a memory of his where this woman is upset that he cut her hair and goes up to him, slaps him, and says that she says something like, "You're a narcissist and you'll always be alone," that kind of thing. And then that memory just keeps repeating and repeating. And Siv, who's the woman who's slapping him, doesn't remember anything and doesn't realize what's going on.
I'm reliving the same day over and over. Groundhog Day, today.
There was like one particular one where he was like really heartfelt. He's like, "Look, I'm a narcissist. Like, I'm really, really sorry." And you see like the most serious Loki you've ever seen on the whole MCU. But then, and she actually does like pick him up, but she still is like, "You'll always be alone." And then it doesn't matter, you know?
What I was trying to say at the beginning of all this is the fact that so many, like, a lot of time isn't going on during this episode, but a lot of things are happening at the same time in all of this. So we're getting all of these different stacks happening at the same time. So we have Loki in his time jail cell, but he has two separate conversations with Mobius. So we have the before, which he kind of implants the thought of, hey, TVA might be doing a little shady shit that you don't know about. Then Mobius goes back to Loki, and we have like, what did you mean by this? And Loki kind of expands on that and says, like, everyone in the TVA had a life. You guys are all variants, and your mind was wiped, and that's what Sylvie did. She told me this because she can't create a fantasy. She has to use memories. And so, like, that's how she knows that you guys are all variants, and kind of convinces Mobius that the TVA is kind of shady. And so now Mobius has that idea. But while all of this is going on, we have Sylvie's side of things that are happening, and the most recent person that Sylvie had entranced, the guard, she is actually starting to like see the cracks in things and go, holy shit, how do I have these memories? And so while the Loki Mobius stuff is happening, now we have Hunter and Sylvie like in a completely different, well, in the apocalypse that they found her basically in, and kind of we're seeing these two cracks going at the same time against the TVA. Now Mobius is like, look, I've got to figure this out for myself. And we get an interesting scene where Mobius switches the two time devices. So then we see him dig up the first Minuteman that was actually entranced by Sylvie, finds out that she was basically saying the exact same thing. We're all variants. We had other lives. We have all these memories. And that's when we get a classic Loki Mobius team up scene, and everything is going to be right with the world. And then we get the crashing to a halt as soon as they leave the time jail cell, and we're met with Mobius and Loki are met with Ravonna and a whole bunch of guards, and you're like, oh shit, this is not gonna be good. And obviously Ravonna knows that Mobius is the one who swapped the two machines. And so now she knows that he's compromised. So he just straight up gets killed. Well, gets pruned, yes. Killed with asterisks. I don't think we can get rid of Owen Wilson in the series before the end. So then we have this really cool scene where we get Ravonna and Sylvie and Loki back in front of the elevators. And now, like, you can tell that they're worried about each other. I mean, they're worried about themselves, obviously. And then we get the scene we've kind of been waiting for, where we get everyone in front of the Timekeepers. We get Timekeepers talking and stuff. But one thing that Ravonna wasn't counting on is that Hunter B-15 could make it past all the guards up the elevator and kind of, crash the party, I guess would be the best explanation, and brings, like, basically Sylvie some backup. And a major fight breaks out right in front of the Timekeepers, which, I mean, I'm sitting there going, why don't, like, the Timekeepers, like, I don't know, freeze time, do something, and just, like, be like, enough, and, like, pause everybody? I don't know. Like, they're the Timekeepers. They should be able to do something.
You would think, yeah, like, rewind.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
We have this major fight. Loki and Sylvie, being kind of the best warriors there, are able to subdue everyone. and Sylvie proceeds to like wreck shit. She's like, I'm gonna take off one of the Timekeepers' heads.
Yeah, as they appeared to laugh it off, which kind of makes me think that someone at that point was controlling them and then seeing Sylvie attack the Timekeepers and was like, oh, this is hilarious. She thinks she can beat me, but I'm actually not even there. Because the Timekeepers turn out to be not real. They're robots.
Yeah. Yeah, which like I didn't catch that, and I even told you that, like I didn't catch that. That's a huge catch that I watched it. I mean, I watched it like 2 or 3 times. I'm gonna be honest before we recorded this.
I see everything. I really have special eyes.
Nothing gets past Dylan, but no, and so we get this another like this is going to be a very like comforting conversation between Loki and Sylvie, and I think we all kind of think that this is the scene where Loki's gonna say like, hey, I kind of like you. Do you like me?
I like you. What do you think of me?
I don't rightly know, sir.
Make an assessment.
By the way, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm a little weirded out by the whole relationship. Like, I guess it's like, okay, it makes sense. Like, he's this narcissistic character. So it's like, of all the people he would fall in love or like in a romantic way, it would be himself or another version of himself.
Look, Dylan, self-love is important.
That's very true.
As this is all happening and Loki's trying to get the words out, we get Ravonna, boom, prunes our Loki variant. And we have, I saw a video before we actually started recording where they mashed that scene up with the scene from WandaVision where Wanda's holding Vision as the whole thing is breaking down and Vision is like just getting decomposed and stuff. And they match up very, very well. Like that whole like the whole scene of that match up very well. So I don't know if that's hinting at anything or what, but matched up really well. So then we get the end of the episode where Sylvie's I'm gonna kill you type of thing, prune you too, basically, and that's where it ends, or we think. Because surprise, surprise, there is a post-credit scene. Now, before we get to that, let's head over to our big takeaways. The first one I had, and I already touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that I kind of brought it up again, is that, look, we got Sylvie backstory now. We saw her as a kid. We saw her on Asgard. We saw that she got captured by the TVA there. So we know now that she's been on the run since she was a kid. We know she wasn't just like an asshole, basically, as like an adult Loki variant or anything like that. She's a kid. She doesn't know any better. She's been hiding and running for years. But the one thing about this that I still like is that, and they've been doing a good job of this, is giving us reveals, but making them as vague as possible to still let us kind of theorize. Last prediction, I know it was crazy out there, but I still said that like Sylvie could technically still be a variant of Loki's mom, like a younger variant of Loki's mom, and that's where like that love connection is. But like I said, pretty sure we know now, but I just wanted to make sure that I touched on that. I thought it was very important.
Yeah, for sure. So my big takeaway definitely is that the Timekeepers are not real. So the sort of whole mastermind behind the TVA is still unclear. I almost wonder if the Timekeepers are real potentially, and that was just some sort of fake. But I feel like the more I think about it, the less sense it makes, because there's just so many things about the TVA that I feel like are kind of weird and seems like coincidental. Like, why is everyone in the TVA human? And it seems like, why is everyone in the TVA a human on Earth? So that makes me think that, especially with the fact that the Timekeepers are robots, that there's somebody on Earth, probably a character that we've met already, or I don't know. I almost wondered maybe it's another Loki variant that is the TVA. Could be. It would be interesting if Loki's true enemy is Loki.
That brings us to our third big takeaway. No surprise here. Boom! Big reveal. Loki into the Lokiverse. That's what we're dubbing this one.
Boom! Big reveal. Are you kidding me? The same bit.
I do not want another single pop culture reference out of you for the rest of the trip.
Crap!
We finally get a mid-credit scene from the series. We have Loki literally right after he gets pruned or reset, waking up and saying, "Am I in hell?" Which is where Asgardians technically go when they pass away. They go to the next world, and basically a version of himself saying, "Nope, but you will be if you don't get up and help us," type of thing. And we get 4 brand new versions of Loki, one of which being a crocodile. So you know what it really made me like think of, and I instantly thought of this, the Rick and Morty scene where they're teaming up with the superhero group that's supposed to be almost like the Avengers, the Vindicators.
So you're half cold, unfeeling reptile, half also cold, equally unfeeling machine.
Yes.
Wow. So your origin is what? You fell into a vat of redundancy?
But basically, our big reveal, not only is it Loki into the Lokiverse, but it's when you get pruned, you may not really die. Like, you may you may just get sent somewhere else. Like, maybe you get sent to something. Because, look, I don't know if you noticed this because it was so quick. The background is a destroyed New York City. Post-apocalyptic New York City.
Avengers Tower.
So we're getting this after an apocalypse has already happened. So what I'm wondering is if all of these branch timelines never technically completely go away, if maybe they're still like floating around in the ether, and when you get pruned, you just get randomly sent to one.
So I read this, and I think it might be true. I think the idea with pruning is that you actually get sent to a timeline with all the other variants of yourself. That's why there's like, he met with only Lokis. So just a thought that I read. Wanted to add that.
Holy shit, that would be terrifying and hopefully somewhat comforting. You never know how you're going to react to that many versions of yourself, I guess. But anyway, so that leads us into predictions.
So kind of going back to what, Danny, you were talking about with Sylvie's origin, I think that there was no Nexus event. I predict that her very existence is actually the problem. I think that they knew that she was going to cause the downfall of the TVA. And so they just pulled her out and tried to control her. But unfortunately, because she's Lady Loki or whoever she really is, we don't know her real identity, but because of the way she is, she's able to escape.
Very cool. Well, look, I have made a lot of predictions that have been proven wrong. I think just last episode I said Loki had the time stone, and that's how he was able to get off the planet before it got blown up, and how he was able to make the tower move almost back in time. I've made a lot of predictions. Look, I'm gonna throw as many things as I can against the wall, and hopefully one of them sticks eventually. But what I will do is I will call back that I think our Loki variant will exist in the main MCU timeline, which I think we're going to have a lot more timelines by the end of this series. But I think we will have our Loki, that Loki back, our Loki variant. I think the rest of this is going to be like Team Loki against Team TVA, which we don't really know the main villain yet, but that'll get into my next prediction. But this prediction, I kind of said first episode, was that I think we're going to get this Loki back. And why I think that is I really think we're going to get this Loki variant in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I think somehow this is going to connect to that movie. Obviously, it's going to connect to that movie, but I think in a way of they're going to need Loki's help. He's proven that he can do good when his back against the wall and common interest in doing stuff. So like putting things back together and going against a common enemy, I think Loki is going to help Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch. I just think we're going to get our Loki variant in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. That's my first. My second, Team TVA, I think Judge Ravana is working with who we're going to find out is the main kind of villain pulling the strings of these Timekeepers. I think it's Kang the Conqueror. Number one, we already know we're getting him in Ant-Man 3. Already confirmed. We already know the actor. We're getting him no matter what. I think this is going to connect there. And I think Kang has had this all set up for a long time. I still am under the impression that TVA could technically be in the quantum realm. We have had some very similar words used that time moves differently here. Scott Lang said it when he got stuck in the quantum realm for the 5 years during Infinity War and Endgame type of thing. So time moves differently. I think Kang is the big baddie that we're going to find at the end of the series, that he was pulling the strings and that Ravonna was working with him. And we already know that there is a comic connection between Ravonna and King the Conqueror. They had a love interest in the comic lines. This is something that's a very easy connection, and I think we're seeing all of these breadcrumbs, and I think we have to connect these now. I think we're definitely getting Kang. I think he's the figurehead. Maybe he even was one of the original Timekeepers to start, and just kind of started kind of manipulating things to his, like, oh, this is going to work, I want this to happen instead type of thing. And yeah, I think that's going to be our big baddie. That's what we think, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments, what did you think? What are your predictions for the rest of the series, for the next episode? Do you think that King the Conqueror is going to be the big baddie? Do you think our Loki variant is going to survive the end of the series and is going to be in the main MCU after this, maybe even in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness on the good guy's side? But as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, turn on notifications to hear about all of our video updates. Bye, everybody!
Bye.